Here's part 1 of your story in about 800 words, written in third person with simple English. Minji lay unconscious in her escape pod, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. The small ship tumbled through space, warning lights flashing red across the control panel. She had been running for 3 days now, barely stopping to eat or sleep. Minji was not like other Astra. Her skin shimmered a lighter blue than most, and her eyes held a curiosity that made the elders uncomfortable. As the youngest scientist, ever appointed to the High Council of Knowledge, she had access to the most guarded secrets of her people. That was her mistake. When she discovered the files about planet Earth, she couldn't believe what she was reading. The military planned to harvest the planet's resources, viewing humans as primitive creatures unworthy of consideration. The invasion would begin in less than 1 year. "Tai-hyun," she had whispered that night, shaking her bondmate awake. "I found something terrible." Taehyun listened quietly as she explained, his expression unreadable in the dim light of their sleeping chamber. When she finished, he simply nodded and held her close. "We must be careful," he said. "Sleep now. We will decide what to do tomorrow." The next morning, Taehyun was gone when she woke. By midday, security forces surrounded her laboratory. "Scientist Minji, you are charged with accessing forbidden documents," the commander announced. "You will come with us for questioning." She knew what questioning meant. No one ever returned from it with their memories intact. She would become an empty shell, her mind wiped clean of anything the government considered dangerous. Minji had prepared for this possibility. She slipped her hand into her pocket, pressing a small device that triggered the emergency protocols in her laboratory. Smoke filled the room as the lights failed. In the confusion, she escaped through a hidden passage she had built months ago, paranoia finally proving useful. Her emergency bag waited in a storage locker at the transport hub. Within an hour, she had stolen a small research vessel in broken atmosphere, pushing the engines beyond safety limits. For 3 days, security ships chased her through the star system. Minji used every trick she knew, hiding in radiation clouds and asteroid fields. She had disabled the ship's tracking system but knew it was only a matter of time before they found her. On the 3rd day, an Astra military cruiser appeared. The weapons lock warning blared through her ship. "This is your final warning, Scientist Minji," a voice crackled over the communication system. "Power down and prepare to be boarded. If you cooperate, your mind cleansing will be painless." Minji's hands flew over the controls, diverting all power to the experimental jump drive. It was designed for small, controlled jumps between nearby star systems, not for desperate escapes with unknown coordinates. "Jump drive not recommended," the ship's computer warned. "Destination unknown, probability of survival 23%. "Better odds than going back," Minji muttered, slamming her hand down on the activation panel. The stars blurred around her as the ship lurched violently. Pain shot through her body as the inadequate shielding failed to fully protect her from the jump effects. Something hit her head and darkness took her. When Minji regained consciousness, her ship was drifting, most systems offline. Through the viewport, she saw an unfamiliar blue-green planet. "Location?" she croaked. "Unknown," the computer responded, voice distorted. "Nearest reference point matches database entry. Earth." Minji's hearts beat faster. Of all places, she had jumped directly to the planet her people planned to destroy. Warning alarms cut through her thoughts. The ship's systems were failing completely. The jump had damaged the engines beyond repair, and life support was failing. With trembling hands, Minji activated the emergency landing protocols. The ship shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere, heat building around the hull. "Recording final log," she whispered, activating her personal recorder. "This is Scientist Minji of Astra. I have discovered a plot to invade and harvest Earth. Anyone finding this message must warn the humans." She paused, watching the ground approach rapidly. "I'm sorry I couldn't do more." As mountains and forests came into view, Minji braced for impact. The ship crashed through trees, metal tearing apart around her. The last thing she remembered was the taste of blood in her mouth and the strange beauty of Earth's blue sky visible through the shattered hull. In the quiet aftermath, snow began falling on the wreckage, steam rising where it touched hot metal. And in the distance, a lone figure noticed the streak of fire across the morning sky. Hyunwoo trudged through the forest, his boots sinking into fresh snow. The morning had started like any other, until that streak of light tore across the sky. 10 years as a mountain ranger had taught him to investigate anything unusual, though he never expected to find what lay ahead. The crash site was easy to spot. Broken trees and disturbed earth formed a long scar through the forest. Smoke rose from a twisted mass of metal unlike any aircraft he'd seen before. As Hyunwoo approached, he felt heat radiating from the wreckage. "Hello?" he called out, doubting anyone could have survived. "Is anyone alive?" Moving cautiously around, jagged metal, he peered inside what appeared to be a cockpit, his breath caught. There, strapped to a strange-looking seat, was a woman, or something like a woman. Her skin was pale blue, her features delicate but clearly not human. Blood, dark purple rather than red, trickled from a wound on her temple. She was alive but unconscious, her chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. Hyunwoo hesitated only briefly. Whatever she was, she needed help. He carefully unfastened her restraints and checked for broken bones before lifting her from the wreckage. She weighed surprisingly little in his arms. Back at his cabin, Hyunwoo laid the blue-skinned woman on his bed. He cleaned her wounds with warm water, noting how her skin felt smooth like polished stone yet warm to touch. The cut on her head looked serious, so he applied butterfly bandages from his first aid kit. "What are you?" he whispered, studying her face. "And how did you get here?" Hours passed as Hyunwoo kept watch. He checked her pulse regularly, faster than a human's but steady. Around midnight, her eyes fluttered open. Minji woke to unfamiliar surroundings and the face of a creature she'd only seen in research files, a human, male, watching her with concern. Terror shot through her body. She tried to scream but only managed a weak gasp. "It's okay," the human said, raising his hands to show they were empty. "I won't hurt you." Minji pressed herself against the wall, eyes darting around for an escape route. The room was simple: wooden walls, basic furniture, a fire burning in a stone hearth. Not a laboratory or prison cell as she had feared. "Water?" The human offered a cup. When she didn't move, he took a sip himself, then offered it again. Thirst overcame fear. Minji accepted the cup with trembling hands. "I'm Hyunwoo," he said slowly, pointing to himself. "Hyunwoo," she repeated, her translator implant already beginning to process the new language. "Minji," she added, touching her chest. Surprise flickered across his face when she spoke. "You understand me?" Minji nodded cautiously. Her implant would need more time to fully adapt, but basic communication was possible. "Ship crashed," she managed. "Yes, I found you in the wreckage and brought you here." Hyunwoo gestured around the cabin. "You're safe." Safe. The word seemed hollow. Her people would be searching for her. If they found her here, this human would die. And if his government discovered her, she would face imprisonment or worse. Over. The next few days, Minji's strength returned and her translator implant absorbed more language. Hyunwoo proved to be patient and kind, explaining simple things about Earth, the changing seasons, the forest animals, how his solar panels powered the cabin. One evening, as snow fell outside, Hyunwoo asked the question she'd been dreading. "What are you, Minji? Where did you come from?" She considered lying, but decided this human deserved some truth. "I come from far away, another world called Astra. I am running away." "Running from what?" "Bad people. People who want to hurt your world." Hyunwoo's expression grew serious. "Are they coming here?" Minji nodded slowly. "Yes, but not yet. I found their plans. That's why I had to escape." To her surprise, Hyunwoo didn't panic or throw her out into the snow. Instead, he simply added wood to the fire and asked, "Are you hungry?" As days turned into weeks, Minji observed Hyunwoo closely. He lived simply but possessed remarkable skills: fixing broken electronics, tracking animals, predicting weather changes. These abilities weren't in any astrophile about humans. Most surprising was his kindness. When nightmares of her escape woke her screaming, he sat nearby, offering quiet company until she could sleep again. He never demanded information about her technology or threatened to report her existence. Gradually, Minji realized Hyunwoo was nothing like the primitive savages described in Astra propaganda, and as winter settled fully over the mountains, she began to wonder if perhaps the most advanced civilization wasn't always the most evolved. Spring arrived in the mountains, bringing new life after the harsh winter. Minji ventured outside more, often fascinated by Earth's natural cycles. The snow melted, revealing colorful wildflowers that pushed through the soil. Birds returned from their winter journeys, filling the forest with songs unlike anything on Astra. One morning, Hyunwoo found Minji sitting cross-legged in a meadow near the cabin, eyes closed, face turned toward the sun. "What are you doing?" he asked, setting down his wooden basket filled with mushrooms. "Feeling," she replied simply. "On my world, we don't feel the sun like this. Our atmosphere is different." She opened her eyes, the violet color catching the light. "Everything here is so alive." Hyunwoo sat beside her. Over the past months, their communication had improved dramatically. Minji now spoke his language fluently, though certain concepts still confused her. "Why do you live alone?" she asked suddenly. Hyunwoo's expression darkened. He rarely spoke about his past, but something about the moment felt right for sharing. "I used to work building spacecraft," he explained. "I was good at it. Too good, maybe. I focused on work instead of people. My wife left." He pulled a blade of grass, twisting it between his fingers. "After that, cities felt too crowded. Too many people asking questions." Minji nodded slowly. "On Astra, being alone is considered punishment. We live in large communities, always connected." "Sounds exhausting," Hyunwoo said with a small smile. "Sometimes, it was." She hesitated. "That's why Taehyun's betrayal hurt so deeply. In our culture, bondmates share everything, thoughts, feelings, dreams. When he reported me to authorities, he broke something sacred." They sat in comfortable silence, watching clouds pass overhead. These quiet moments had become precious to both of them. Two outcasts finding unexpected companionship. Later that evening, Hyunwoo showed Minji his workshop behind the cabin. Tools hung on the walls, and various projects cluttered the tables. In one corner sat equipment he'd salvaged from her crashed ship. "I've been studying your technology," he admitted. "Hope you don't mind, it's fascinating." Instead of being angry, Minji looked impressed. "You understood how these work?" She picked up a damaged communication device. "Not completely, but I'm learning." He scratched his head. "Your power source is unlike anything I've seen. It could revolutionize energy production on Earth." Minji's face grew serious. "That's why my people want your planet. Your resources, combined with our technology." She didn't finish the thought. "Could we fix the communication device?" Hyunwoo asked. "Maybe contact someone who could help." Minji shook her head. "Too dangerous. If we send any signal, the Astra might detect it." That night, as they ate dinner by firelight, Minji noticed Hyunwoo watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. "What?" she asked. "I was thinking how lucky that crash was," he said quietly. "Not for your ship, but—" He seemed embarrassed. "Before you arrived, days just passed. Now I'm learning something new every day." Minji felt warmth spread through her chest. On Astra, compliments were formal, calculated things. This simple statement affected her more deeply than she expected. "I was their best scientist," she confessed, "but all my knowledge couldn't stop their plans. Sometimes I think intelligence isn't what matters most." "What does matter most?" Hyunwoo asked. Minji considered the question. "Courage, maybe, or kindness." She looked directly at him. "You showed both when you found me." Their eyes held for a moment longer than usual. Something shifted between them, subtle but undeniable. The next day, Minji helped Hyunwoo repair his small radio. Her delicate fingers moved deftly among the wires, making improvements with materials from her ship. "Try it now," she suggested. Hyunwoo turned the dial and suddenly the cabin filled with music, clearer than he'd ever heard from the old device. Minji's eyes widened at the sound. "This is beautiful," she whispered. "What is it?" "Classical music. A composer named Bach." Minji closed her eyes, swaying slightly. Without thinking, Hyunwoo held out his hand. She looked at it curiously, then placed her blue palm against his. "Like this," he said softly, guiding her into a simple dance. They moved, awkwardly at first, then with growing confidence. Two different species from worlds light years apart, finding harmony in the simple joy of movement and music. Neither mentioned the strange new feeling growing between them, a connection that transcended biology and culture. For now, it was enough to know they were no longer alone. The crisp autumn air carried a hint of frost as Minji adjusted the modified sensor array on the cabin roof. 3 seasons had passed since her crash landing, and Earth now felt more like home than Astra ever had. She finished connecting the final wire and climbed down the ladder. "It's working," she called to Hyunwoo, who emerged from the workshop carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "How far can it detect?" he asked, handing her a steaming mug. "About 50,000 kilometers. Enough warning if—" She didn't finish the sentence. They both knew what she feared. Their peaceful existence had grown into something neither had expected. Hyunwoo had taught Minji about Earth, its cultures, history, and the surprising resilience of humans. She had shown him principles of Astra, science, helping improve his solar panels and communications equipment. And somewhere along the way their feelings had deepened beyond friendship. Neither spoke of it directly, but it showed in small gestures. His hand lingering on hers when passing tools, her quiet laughter at his jokes, the way they now moved around each other with comfortable familiarity. That evening, they sat on the porch watching stars appear. Minji pointed to a faint cluster barely visible to the human eye. "My home system is there," she said softly. "Sometimes I wonder if anyone else questioned the invasion plans after I left." Hyunwoo was about to respond when a sharp beeping came from inside the cabin. Their eyes met in silent understanding. They rushed inside to the sensor display. "A ship," Minji whispered, her voice trembling. "Astra design, scout class." "Could it be passing by?" Hyunwoo asked, though he already knew the answer. Minji shook her head. "They're entering orbit. The trajectory suggests they're scanning for something." She looked up with frightened eyes. "For me?" They spent the night preparing. Minji gathered essential equipment from her salvage technology while Hyunwoo packed survival gear. "We need to leave at dawn," he said, checking his rifle. "My old friend has a cabin deeper in the mountains. No electricity, no metal. Nothing they could detect." Minji paused her work. "Hyunwoo, this is my fight. You should—" "Don't," he interrupted firmly. "We face this together." As sunrise painted the mountains gold, they loaded Hyunwoo's truck. Minji's scanner suddenly blared an alarm. "They've deployed search drones," she gasped, studying the display. 3 of them heading this way. They abandoned the truck and headed into the forest on foot, moving quickly through paths Hyunwoo knew by heart. Minji carried a small device she had built overnight, a disruptor that might disable Astra technology at close range. By midday, they heard the distinctive hum of drones. Hyunwoo pulled Minji behind a fallen tree as a metallic sphere the size of a basketball floated through the clearing ahead. Its surface glowed with pulsing blue light. "It's scanning for astrobiology," Minji whispered. "My unique genetic signature." On the drone paused, hovering as if confused. Then it turned directly toward their hiding place. "Run!" Hyunwoo shouted, pulling Minji to her feet. They sprinted through the forest, branches whipping their faces. The drone followed, joined by a second approaching from the east. Minji stumbled on a root, crying out as she fell. The drones accelerated. Hyunwoo made a split-second decision. He grabbed Minji's disruptor device and turned to face the machines. What are you doing? She screamed. Buying time. He adjusted the settings as she had shown him and pressed the activation button. Nothing happened. The drones kept coming. Then suddenly, both machines dropped from the air, crashing into the forest floor with a shower of sparks. Hyunwoo grinned triumphantly at Minji. His smile faded when he saw her expression. Behind you, she said quietly. Hyunwoo turned slowly. A tall, blue-skinned figure stood at the edge of the clearing. Unlike Minji's delicate features, this Astra had a harsh, angular face. He wore what appeared to be armor, and a weapon pointed directly at Hyunwoo's chest. Step away from the fugitive, the Astra soldier commanded in accented English. Instead, Hyunwoo moved closer to Minji, standing protectively in front of her. Primitive loyalty, the soldier sneered. Admirable but foolish. Taehyun, Minji said, her voice barely audible. You came yourself. The soldier's expression flickered with something like regret. The council insisted you know too much. And you know nothing, she replied, straightening her shoulders. These humans aren't what our reports claim. They're creative, adaptable. Spare me your anthropological observations. Taehyun cut her off. You have one chance. Return voluntarily and your human remains unharmed. Hyunwoo felt Minji's hand slip something small and cold into his palm. Without moving his head, he glanced down. A small silver device with a single button. Trust me, she whispered. Then louder. If I come with you, you'll leave Earth alone? Taehyun smiled coldly. Of course. Minji nodded almost imperceptibly to Hyunwoo. He pressed the button. A blinding flash of light filled the clearing. Taehyun dropped his weapon, clutching his head in pain. The silver device in Hyunwoo's hand had emitted a neural disruption pulse, calibrated specifically for astrophysiology. Run! Minji shouted, grabbing Hyunwoo's arm. They sprinted through the forest, heading toward a small cave Hyunwoo knew from his hunting trips. Behind them, they heard Taehyun's angry shouts fading into the distance. Inside the cave, Hyunwoo built a small fire while Minji examined the device she had given him. It won't affect him for long, she explained. But it gives us time to think. What happens now? Hyunwoo asked, his voice heavy with concern. If we disabled his drones, won't others come looking? Minji nodded slowly. Yes, and we can't run forever. She stared into the flames. There's another option, something I never told you about. She reached into her pocket and removed a small crystal glowing with soft purple light. This contains all the evidence I gathered about the invasion plans, and proof of corruption in our leadership. What good is evidence if we can't send it anywhere? Hyunwoo asked. Minji's eyes reflected the firelight. Remember when we fixed your radio? I built in a special transmitter, strong enough to reach the resistance movement on Astra. Hyunwoo looked surprised. There's a resistance? Small but growing. Many Astra don't agree with the military faction's plans. She turned the crystal in her fingers. If I can send this evidence, it might be enough to stop them. Why didn't you tell me before? Because sending this signal will reveal our exact location, she said quietly. I needed to find the right moment, and I needed to be sure it was worth the risk. Their eyes met across the fire. The unspoken question hung between them. Dawn broke as they emerged from the cave. In the distance, they could see smoke rising from where the cabin stood. Taehyun had found it. They hiked to a ridge overlooking the valley, where Minji carefully set up the modified transmitter. Once I activate this, we have minutes at most, she warned. Hyunwoo checked his rifle and nodded. Do it. Minji inserted the crystal and began the transmission. The device hummed with energy as it sent the evidence across light years of space. For 5 tense minutes, nothing happened. Then they heard the unmistakable sound of an approaching ship. He found us, Hyunwoo said grimly, raising his rifle. The Astra scout ship appeared over the ridge, hovering menacingly. Its weapon ports opened, targeting them. Minji stood tall beside Hyunwoo, refusing to show fear. A voice boomed from the ship. Surrender now, traitor. It's over, Taehyun, Minji called back. I've sent everything to the Resistance. Your superior's corruption is exposed. The ship descended slowly, landing nearby. The hatch opened and Taehyun emerged, face contorted with rage. You've doomed us all. He spat. The humans are a resource we need. They're people, Minji replied firmly. With as much right to live as we have. Taehyun raised his weapon. Then die with them. Before he could fire, a bright light enveloped his ship. The control system sparked and died. A second Astra vessel appeared in the sky, markings different from the military ships. Attention, military vessel, a new voice announced. By order of the Reform Council, you are relieved of duty. Taehyun's face showed shock, then defeat. Impossible. They couldn't have moved so quickly. Your transmission worked, Hyunwoo whispered to Minji. The Resistance. Not resistance anymore, she said with wonder in her voice. They've taken control. Over the next hours, they learned what had happened. Minji's evidence had reached sympathetic council members who had been gathering their own proof of corruption. The combined evidence had been enough to trigger a peaceful governmental change. The invasion plans for Earth were the final outrage that united the opposition. 2 days later, Minji and Hyunwoo stood on the burnt remains of his cabin. The new Astra representatives had offered them both sanctuary on her homeworld. We could go, Minji said softly. You would be welcomed as a hero. Hyunwoo looked at the mountains surrounding them, then back at Minji. Or we could stay here, rebuild. He took her hand. Together. Minji smiled, her violet eyes bright with unshed tears. I think I'd like that. In the years that followed, their rebuilt cabin became more than a home. It grew into Earth's first unofficial embassy to the stars. Minji's knowledge helped humanity prepare for peaceful first contact, while Hyunwoo's practical wisdom reminded the Astra of values they had forgotten in their pursuit of technology. And in the quiet evenings, they would sit on their porch watching, the stars, two beings from different worlds who had found in each other something worth protecting. A love that transcended the boundaries of species and space.